Hey, what's up, everybody? While it's on my mind, because I just had a whole sermon to myself, and sometimes I just be thinking, why don't I just say this stuff and record it and say to people? Like, I don't know why, like, I would just be talking to myself. Like, really, and I'm on the way to work right now. I'm on the way to work. And I know when I get there, I don't want to be yelling about this stuff. But, so on my channel right now, I'm currently creating a live series through the book of Job, the Bible. And I just did my first live a couple of days ago, and I only got through chapters 1 through 14. I thought I was going to get through the whole book. No, I didn't think so. About 3 hours in, I was like, yeah, I think this is a good time to just cut it in, I mean, I could have done the whole thing, but I had plenty of stuff to do. I think it's good to break it up so I can marinate on it. And what I'm marinating on it and thinking about right now, me personally, I don't know about anybody else, but when I heard about the story of Job, all I tend to hear about, and again, this could just be me, all I tend to hear about is that, he went through what he went through, which was he lost all his wealth, lost his children, he suffered greatly. And in spite of all that, he still gave praise to God. And it stops right there. That's usually what I hear, which, and obviously that is a beautiful lesson. That's a huge thing within itself. Giving praise to God in the midst of your struggles, in the midst of your triumphs, or trials. In your triumphs, of course, but in your trials, your struggles, your tribulations, your hardships, still giving praise to God and understanding that there's a reason behind this, right? There's a test behind this, which there was an actual test. Given by Satan, administered by God, though, right? God gave permission for the devil to test in the way that he did. Now, why? In the book, it's showing that God was proving to the devil the fact that this man is upright, he's blameless, which God said to the devil himself. He said, Job is upright, he is blameless. Essentially, I don't care what you do to him, he will not lose faith in me. Right? So the devil tested Job. Right? Now, some people question right then and there, like, God, why would you do that? Oh, this car is trying to kill me back here. Some people question, which I kind of did too. I say, man, why would you do that? Why would you test him like that? But though I had the inkling of questioning that, I was like, no, God is God. Like, his ways are higher than our ways, his thoughts are higher than our thoughts. He knows things that we don't know. We can only think on a humane perspective. On a human perspective, we cannot see higher than that. Right? So, but anyways, in the first 2 chapters, everything that I've heard about Job before I read through it happened in the first 2 chapters, which, mind you, were the first 2 pages of the book, of a 42-chapter book. The first 2 chapters, the first 2 pages, is when we see the test, the destruction of his family and his wealth, and Job still giving praise to God. That happens immediately. So that opens up the book of Job. It opens up with, we don't really learn much about his family or how he got his wealth. We just know he's wealthy, has a big family. Now, we do hear that Job, is consistently consecrating his family, because he does say one time that maybe my children have sinned against God in their hearts. So he continues to consecrate them, right? That's the only thing we ever hear about their kids, which I think is interesting. And again, something I've never heard. Now, mind you, his wealth and his kids are killed. And even Job is saying himself, why is this person so close to me? I'll pray for this person. I'm sorry. God, I'm sorry. I'll pray for this person. I'm gonna drive slow. People in Texas, they love to smell your gas pipe. I promise you that. They love to smell your tailpipe. So I've gotten through chapters 1 through 14. So I'm just barely a quarter. I'm probably a third of the way there. Again, it's a 42-chapter book, right? I'm a quarter of the way there. And what is missed, at least what I never heard taught and preached enough in Job, to me, the biggest lesson is not the fact that Job gave praise to God in spite of troubles, because that happens in other parts of the book, or of the Bible. I don't know who, like Job, was so upright and blameless, had that travesty happened to him. Those travesties happened to him and still gave praise to God. I don't know yet. There's still plenty of books I haven't finished, but that's the only story that I heard where that sort of things happened to that person, type of guy. But that's not even the biggest part of the story when it comes to Job. After this, after the testing, after the travesties, Job's 3 friends come to him, and I'm gonna Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar. I think I'm butchering the first name, but Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar, his 3 friends. They come to him. They see him. He looks horrible. He looks messed up, because not only did Job lose everything, the last thing the devil gave to Job was sores all over his body. So much so that Job took a piece of clay, of pottered clay, and was scraping his skin, the scabs and the sores off his skin. It looked that bad. So when his friends saw him, he wasn't even recognizable. The grief, the sorrow, the sores, the emotional, the mental, the physical tolls weighed on him so bad his friends barely recognized him. Right? So for 7 days, a full week, 7 days, 7 nights, an entire week, his friends just sat with him. Just sat with him, didn't say anything, and just sat with him. Now, that's not 4 guys going through something, all right? Like, as men, we'll do that. We'll just kind of sit with each other, man. If it's that bad, man, we're not the biggest on words sometimes, and I think as men, we understand that with each other, so a lot of times we might just sit with each other. And if we're going to say something, it might not even be relevant to what's going on. It might be few in words, but it might not be relevant, man. I mean, guys, can you attest to that? Any guys out there can attest to that? You with your guys, man, one of us or both of us have just gone through just the craziest things, that we're just sitting with each other, not saying much. We could probably start talking about sports or the weather, but it's not about what's being said. It's about the fact that we're there for each other. So God shows that, okay, his friends are actually his brothers, and they mean well with him, and they're with him a whole week, just sitting with him and not saying nothing. That's a long time, right? But what happens after that, though, and I think this is where the book of Job gets interesting and the real lessons start to be taught. Now, his 3 friends, each one are different when it comes to their sharing, when they finally do start speaking up. Eliphaz, the first friend, he's that friend who is going to kind of butter you up a little bit, kind of put a blanket around you, and then kind of tell you, his thoughts about what he feels like you maybe could do better and have struggled in. He's that friend who's going to kind of lay it softer on you, right? He does that. Bildad is the friend, he's no better, no worse. I mean, not really, but he just kind of says the main points. He just kind of gets to the main point. Again, he's not gonna beat around the bush. He's not gonna butter you up, but he's just gonna kind of just say, well, again, this is just the stuff. This is what you could do better. Zophar. All right, now Zophar, he's the friend that's just the blunt one. He's the blunt one. He's just gonna tell you what it is. He ain't gonna care about how you feeling. If anything, he'll just dig the knife in a little bit deeper. He's that friend, if you're gonna put hands on somebody, if you weren't gonna do it for the first 2, guaranteed for show, unless you are Job, you putting your hands on Zophar. I'm reading through it, I'm like, bro, I ain't gonna hold you, man. I might not be Job, but I would pray to God that he gives me grace, because I might put my hands on Zophar, man. Like, he just straight up was like, you suck. Your life is bad because you suck, so you need to repent. But at the end of the day, all 3 of them were saying the same thing, right? They're supposed to be wise counsel, but what we see is that not one friend asked Job a question. Not one friend tried to really diagnose the problem, see the condition. Where is it coming from? Why did it happen? What could it have derived from? None of that. It's like going to a doctor's office, saying that you have a problem, and they just immediately give you medicine without actually diagnosing your condition and figuring out what. It's like, hey doctor, I have a problem. All right, here's some allergy medicine. It's like, no, doc, I have cancer. No, this is what you need. This is what you need. Doc, I have cancer. No, take this medicine, right? Your life sucks, and I know why it sucks. Here's the reason. And Job is sitting there like, y'all saying these things about me that are not true. I know I haven't done anything wrong. I know I'm upright. I know I'm blameless. Again, God himself said that to the devil, right? So he knows these things to be true. And what we start to see, his countenance, his appearance, his demeanor, even towards God, Job, starts to change. And after each friend speaks, and Job, mind you, still defends God, but even his words towards God starts to become more harsher. As each friend delivers a harsher and harsher message, Job's speaking towards God, his direction towards God is even harsher at that. Right? This man who is upright, who's blameless, has this undevoted faith or undying devotion, is what I meant to say, towards God. We start to even see that, excuse me, we start to see that even be questioned a little bit. And I mean, I'm reading through, and again, only about a third of the way there, I'm seeing how Job's words towards God is starting to become harsher, more aggressive, more assertive, even though still saying to his friends, look, I know y'all want me to do these things towards God and say these things. I know I got to repent, but you know I have nothing to repent for. First of all, who are you guys? And who am I to go to God? If I to go to God, who's going to judge us? Who's going to be the judge between the court case between me and God? You know, Job versus God. Who's going to be the judge between that? It ain't going to be y'all, my friends. It ain't going to be the devil. Right? Who is it going to be? Who's higher than him? Who's higher than his ways? Who's higher than his thoughts? Right? Who's decked the sky with stars? Right? Who made the mountains bend? Right? Who washed the ground with the ocean? Right? Who made the birds fly in the sky? Who flew the birds in the sky? Who made them sing? Made this, decked the sea out with fish and gave them dominion over it. Right? Coated the grass with flowers and lilies. Right? Who made the wolf howl at the moon? Right? The birds chirping. Who gave us free will and dominion over the earth? Not Job. Not I. Right? Who freed the people from Egypt? Who gave Moses the power to do what he did? Made a violent man, one who killed somebody, murdered somebody. Who turned a murderer into a liberator, right? Who turned a murderer into a liberator? Not I, not Job, right? And that's what Job is saying to his friends. So, and I know later in the book, God is eventually going to respond to Job. But while Job is saying these things, his friends are talking, God ain't saying nothing. God is just listening. Understandably so. God's listening. But I know later in the book, God does respond. He gives his reproaches to Job's friends. God gonna say what he gotta say. And as far as I know, the little bit that I've seen, because I didn't want to read too much and get ahead of myself, God let Job know. Let Job know. He lets him know, right? And I'm sure the lesson that we're going to learn, and I haven't gotten there yet, but if wisdom is really speaking to me, the Spirit is really speaking to me, what we're going to learn is, this is why Proverbs says later in the book, or in Bible, that trusting man will lead to your downfall at the end of the day. You need wise counsel around you, but putting your full faith and trust in man will lead to your downfall. And we see that one after the other, his friends brings Job further and further down into darkness. Job wasn't talking about killing himself. Job wasn't talking about wanting to die. But it's only after his friends were speaking to him that Job was like, God, why don't you just let me die? Like, why wasn't I stillborn? Why, when I was born, why didn't I die sometime earlier? Right, soon after. Why didn't I die amongst the kings and princes and authority figures and notable folk? Why didn't I die like them? Why give me all these things just to suffer? Job starts having these really dark, depressing, demonic thoughts, truly demonic, about wanting to die and being stillborn and wanting to just sit in darkness. I mean, the illustration, the poeticism that he uses, it's on some Edgar Allan Poe type stuff, right? And I'm sure when God starts to speak, all that gets healed and all that gets replenished. And we know at the end of the day, Job gets twice-fold, tenfold more at the very end. And again, that is also preached too, is because of his faith, Job is given extra and plenty. All we get is the beginning and the end. But the greatest part of the book, we miss all that. Nobody teaches and preaches on that. That is the thing that's really what the most eye-opening to me. Yeah, he gets rewarded. Yeah, he praised God, and that's all beautiful. And these are things to never forget. But the biggest things to me are the lessons that I'm learning is, what questions do you ask when you go through what you go through? The questions you ask God from your own self and your friends, your quote unquote friends that are around you. What sort of counsel do you have? Are they replenishing your spirit, or do they bring you down? Right? It truly is that counsel around you. And to me, these are the biggest lessons when it comes to the book of Job. So if you don't and as I'm saying, don't trust me. I'm just a man. Don't trust me. I'm just flesh. Don't trust me. Read it yourself. This is what I'm getting from my own read through, having not read it with nobody else. Now, again, I am doing lives, and I'll continue to do lives as I finish Job, and I'll do it with other books. But as I'm stewing on it, it's crazy how much of the book that is not being talked about, and especially in today's day and age, when it comes to trusting people and trusting those around you, the voices around you, in your head and out. Are we trusting these voices over the voice? Are we trusting creation over the creator? That's a question we should ask ourselves when these other questions are being asked of Job, and in Job, and around Job. Just my thoughts. I'll catch y'all next time.